Well, it is nice to be back here. The acoustics are certainly a lot better in this room. And today's program is a very special one. We have Roxanne Lindsay, who is a community outreach representative in the Tri-Valley area for ACE Trains. She was raised in a ranch in San Ramon, attended Chico State, and for various years she worked for state and federal legislators, and for the last 6 years she's been with ACE. So Roxanne, come up and
I want you to know, those of you who can see the picture, that is not me at any time. But it's a good example of how our passengers on ACE train feel about riding the train. I thought today I would start my presentation with a little discussion about the derailment on March 7th. It was, as the old term goes, a dark and stormy night. But ACE, the fourth train of the day, was coming through, and it was getting dark, it was raining a lot. They were being very cautious, they went below the speed limit, and it was the fourth train of the day to go through, of the evening, to go through Niles Canyon. Now, if you understand how our trains operate, it helps. When they leave Stockton in the morning, they pull the cars, 4 to 7 cars, over to San Jose. In the evening, they push the cars back. So the fourth train coming through Niles Canyon hit a mudslide or a tree. There's speculation, and this has not been clearly defined yet, but that when it hit the slide, another happened and pushed the car down into the creek. At that time, an amazing situation came into play. The emergency agencies that gathered, that were able to communicate well, who accepted their responsibilities, all came into action. But above and beyond were the ACE passengers. They didn't leave anyone not helped. They got everyone out. Then they were taken with LAVTA vehicles over to the fairground. We had our last passenger home by 1 o'clock that night. No one was killed. We had the train tracks, a concerted effort between ACE Train, Union Pacific. We run on their tracks, and Herzog, who is our operator. We had those tracks cleared and up and open in 24 hours. So that happened on a Monday night, and ACE was running Wednesday morning on time again. So it was a very serious lesson. A lot was learned. You may have heard about the fences along the Feather River Canyon and the Colorado River. They have sensors in them, and if there is a slide, there's an alarm that sounds so that the train operators know they need to stop. So that's one method of prevention. We'll see what happens. But first of all, how many of you have ridden ACE Train? Yay, that's really good. That's great. Here's the train coming through Niles Canyon in a totally different weather. This is an example of times, and I'm really sorry for those of you over here, I'm not sure that you can see, But our stations, the train starts in Stockton. The first train that leaves in the morning is 4:20. Marty? Alan, help.
Oh, get it.
Leaves Stockton, goes to Lathrop, Manteca. He has some exciting things happening there. From there to Tracy, over the Altamont to Basco Road. Basco Road's important for the labs, and as industry grows out in that area and more people live in that area, the Vasco Road station is very important. There's downtown Livermore, right by the bankhead. Great parking there. The ticket booth is open all day. From Livermore to Pleasanton. Pleasanton's a very busy station, Pleasanton and Great America. The number of people that get off gives space to other passengers getting on, going further. From there, goes through Castlewood Golf Course, Niles Canyon to Fremont. Between Fremont and Great America is the Salt Flats. There's a ghost town, Drawbridge, and it's a great view. And then the Great America Station, Santa Clara, downtown Diridon in San Jose. Takes about a half an hour from the Livermore Valley to Fremont, but coming from Stockton, it's an hour ride to Livermore, and then another hour on to San Jose. So it's about 2 hours of productive, relaxing riding. If you have not been on the ACE train, you'll see when you do ride, it's an amazing car. There are 3 levels. The lower level has bike parking, handicap access. It's never a problem. If someone's in a wheelchair, easily taken care of. The middle level and then the upper level where you have great views. There's a restroom on every car. Currently there's Wi-Fi in each train for one car. It's our goal to have all the cars Wi-Fi enabled. But right now, with the, you can charge your laptop or phone at the work tables. There are bike cars. More and more people would like to ride bikes. First train has 3 cars that have bike parking on them. Each station has bike lockers. The dimly lit cars, we try and have those as far away from the engine as possible. They're quiet, there's no cell phone, there's no conversation. It's just a relaxing car, whether you're going to or coming from work. Those passengers of ours that hold 20 trip tickets or monthly tickets have a guaranteed emergency ride home, and that's provided between 6 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon, when normally they may not be able to catch a train. And we are looking at a lounge cars for our trains. That's particularly popular on a special train we're running these days. So what do ACE riders do while they're on that train? Well, they do a variety of things. They may play cards, read, sleep, talk on the phone, but people get to be friends on the train, which is part of why the trains are so comfortable, so clean. People are respectful for other people. They have a pride of ownership in what the cars are like. People may get together with other riders on weekends for barbecues or so. Now, what did ACE riders do before they started riding the train? Again, so sorry. There are about 80% of them drove alone. So when they started riding ACE, Just think of that, the number of cars that came off the Altamont, off the Sunol grade. Even carpooling, 11%. Is that me?
No, it's actually the hotel.
Okay, thank you, Alan. So almost 12% of the riders came from carpools, but I think you can see ACE is doing its very best to help with the gridlock, to help end that. 45% of our riders come from the Central Valley, from all over the Central Valley, catching the train at our 3 stations there, and they go over into Silicon Valley, Fremont area. 16% come to the Tri-Valley, and again, that's, I mentioned a lot get off in Pleasanton. They go from Pleasanton, take the shuttle over to the BART station. The interesting thing to me is 3% of our passengers get on in Livermore and get off in Pleasanton. The parking in Livermore is great, and they don't have to face the traffic. Then they can go right over to BART or maybe pick up one of the shuttles that's there in Pleasanton. So, Shuttle 53, LABTA, ACE has a great partnership with Wheels, and you'll hear when Michael Tree speaks that we have worked together very, very well. Now they have 2 buses that meet every train. Shuttle 53 goes from the ACE station in Pleasanton directly to BART. It's a 12-minute ride. Shuttle 54 goes through Hacienda Business Park, dropping people off. It ends up at the East BART station, and that's about a 45-minute ride. This is a map of all the shuttles. I won't go into detail on that, but think of the shuttles that meet the ACE train, and whether it's private or public. It's like the heart. The station is the heart, brings people to an area, and the shuttles take them out. We have a shuttle that comes from Walnut Creek down through the San Ramon Valley. That's County Connection 92X. Brings people all the way from Walnut Creek to ACE train. There's another shuttle that takes passengers from Great America over to Palo Alto. So you can see the range of that is available for ACE passengers. So, what is happening with ACE in the future? That's the really exciting news. We have some great things happening. Right now, we're looking for our 5-year plan at reaching out and establishing a station in downtown Modesto. When we do that, we will start running 6 daily trips a day, round trips. So that will be a nice benefit for all of those people that live down in the Central Valley. And again, there's so many of our riders come from that area. In 10 years, we plan to be in Merced. We will have 10 daily round trips. So you can see the flexibility. People will be able to, those people who may not work with their schedule right now, very soon, relatively speaking, it will. The exciting thing about Merced also is a high-speed rail. That's a destination for them. So ACE will be there waiting to bring those people coming from the high-speed rail. It'll be a good connection up. But you can see what are our proposed stations. So that's Stanislaus County. We currently serve San Joaquin, Alameda, and Santa Clara County. This is a good map of where the high-speed rail proposed Phase 1 is and Phase 2. So you can see how we intersect there at Merced, how that will happen. And then come on over to San Jose. ACE is looking also at a potential route from Stockton up to Sacramento. And I hear that question fairly often. When are you going to start connecting with Sacramento? But I'll tell you a question I hear more often is, how about Vasco Road? When are you going to Brentwood? We don't see that on our long-term radar. So Livermore has lots of good things happening to it, and particularly with BART in transportation. So these are some of our plans. In yellow, you can see improvements that are pretty immediate happening over the Altamont. Improve those grades so the engines can pull more cars, bring more people. And then down through the valley and from Pleasanton over through Niles Canyon. The pink is a grade improvement, a route improvement over the Altamont, and then BART. It's important for us to look at within our plans, how are we going to connect with BART? Just kind of a rundown, again, of our existing stations. We're Vasco, downtown Livermore, Pleasanton, and the Pleasanton has the BART connections. We could sure help traffic a lot once BART gets over to Isabel. So we're looking at that. How will we bring our passengers from downtown Livermore to the Isabel station? We'll use a bus shuttle. That's what we do well. There's a potential of another alternative, and that is from Greenville Road, a spur over to the Dublin East Station. Or from when BART gets to Isabel, a spur from Greenville. Greenville ultimately is going to be a very important transit hub. There'll be ACE, there'll be Wheels buses, LAVTA, there will be BART. And you know, Wheels, ACE runs on Union Pacific tracks. And so there's freight, as you well know, coming through the valley. So there's lots that would be going on at that Greenfield station. Now this is a potential BART extension to Greenville. Then we would have a direct connection there. There'd be no shuttles involved, no spurs. Or, and I know that Livermore residents did not vote in favor of a downtown station. But in our planning, ACE needs to consider every potential alternative. What will we do if this happens? So this is one of the alternatives we're looking at. If there is an extension to Tabasco Road through downtown Livermore, how will we handle that? Well, we'll meet there at the Vasco Road station. Now, I've talked about the improvements we have planned from Lathrop Manteca Station down to Modesto or Lathrop Manteca down to Merced. When those happen, such as the 1 in 10 years to Merced, our ridership will increase almost 6 million. Right now we carry about 5,000 passengers a day, and that's over about 1 million passengers a year. So the improvement when we make those additional train trips and those additional stations will be huge and will bring a lot of people off the freeway there will be an increase of about 345,000 to 675,000, or a direct connection between Ace and BART at Greenville. I know many of you can read that, but I know there's some people who can't. So Ace to BART would improve our ridership to about 865,000, or about 17% jump in passengers. And we're looking at weekend service. We think that there is a growing demand for that. So, yes, we are running special trains to the 49er games. It's been a very popular feature. I suppose it will be even more popular when the lounge cars start. But right now, we're getting well over 800 passengers we run one train. So just picture being on the train with a lot of other 49er fans, either celebrating or commiserating whatever turned out for that game. And there you go. Are there questions? I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Is that
Yes.
a diesel engine? Is that a diesel engine?
Yes.
Diesel?
Diesel electric.
And we're looking at updating our engines as we improve our system also. Yes.
What's the thinking is to whether or not to run a spur from Greenville down to the New Isabel station on BART?
We're looking at that as an alternative, yes.
How much would that cost? And is it, are you all thinking very strongly about that rather than other alternatives?
We are thinking strongly about it. You can turn around and ask your city manager, maybe. He has those figures.
So what is the cost for all the improvements that you're projecting out there?
This is part of our environmental impact study right now.
How is
That
it funded?
what we'll, right now, like Measure BB that just passed, we get a certain amount of funding from that. San Joaquin County has Measure K. Santa Clara County has their transportation measure. We have a 50% return on revenue from our fare box, and we also have grants from federal and state agencies. So right now, we're working on the figures for costs. Carol?
When you are asked a question, I cannot hear what the question is, so could you?
Oh,
repeat it?
I will do that. I will do that.
What was your question?
Alan?
Okay, I've heard some talk. I've heard some talk about ACE going over the Dumbarton Bridge, of some Dumbarton corridor service, and a train up to San Francisco via that route. Is ACE involved in the planning of that?
I'm not familiar with that at all. I have heard, but I have no idea where that might be. That's an interesting question. Carol, could you hear that all right? Okay.
There's a gentleman in the back.
Oh, I'll let you do the microphone.
Oh, no, I just, okay, the microphone. Go ahead.
And you had a question?
Have BART and ACE done any planning to see if BART will be able to handle the capacity of the ridership if ACE connects with BART at Greenville?
It's my thought, and I don't know anything about what BART's planning is. I really don't, because I'm not connected with them at all. But I hope that didn't sound derogatory. But it's something that I'm sure they will consider and take into their planning system.
So you mentioned you pull in one direction and push in the other.
Yes.
I assume it's safer to always pull. How much extra effort would it take to pull in both directions?
To move an engine around to the front, or to have an engine in front. It's an interesting operations question. If there were someone here from Herzog, they would probably know. I don't.
We have a gentleman in the back.
There's no provision to turn
Yes.
locomotives. Put one on each.
Back to the accident. I'm assuming that the train has an engine only on one end. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
So when they're pushing the train back up Niles Canyon, the engine is at the rear of the train. Is that correct?
Yes.
Has this been considered a safety thing when it comes to visibility ahead and so forth? Because sitting at the end of the train, I would imagine that the engineer really has a significant limitation in what he can see ahead of him. And this may have been, at least in my opinion, one of the reasons he didn't slow down or stop or whatever he had to do to prevent the accident. Is that the only segment where the train is pushed? That's the other question I had about that.
Okay, first of all, I can answer both of those. There are several questions buried in what you said. One, there is a cab at the other end of the train, so the engineer is always at the front of the train, whichever direction it's going. Secondly, each of the passenger cars is in fact powered. The engine provides electricity for electric traction motors on each of the passenger cars. So the traction is actually distributed throughout the entire train. The only problem is that the engine is heavier than the rest of the cars, and when you're pushing, if you're in a collision scenario, there is that extra force from the momentum of the engine. However, one of the things that was very obvious in this recent crash was that the new engineering requirements on passenger cars prevented any serious damage to the lead car that went headfirst into the creek. The car did not crumple. Older cars would have. So no one was seriously hurt on that car. I mean, people were thrown around, but the cars did not crumple.
Thank you, Alan.
Okay, okay. How do you interface with Amtrak?
We interface with Amtrak at Fremont, Great America, and San Jose. Is that a capital
Well, in other words, if you
corridor?
take that train, you know, the one that starts, I guess, at Sacramento and wheels down through
Yeah,
Jacqueline Square and so forth.
Right.
So what's the best place to merge with Amtrak?
You could take Ace from Livermore over to Fremont and catch it there. Yeah.
Thank you.
That would be a great trip.
Thank you very much.
My time is really I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Roxanne. I have something for you. Get your choice.